sin, God brought him to do tshuva. It was all part of the divine plan. So that God was present all along, which is a problematic concept, and I don't know how to work it out philosophically. Because of course, if you do away with free will, the whole game doesn't make any sense, and reward and punishment doesn't make any sense, and what kind of sense does it make to worry about keeping the Torah if you do away with free will, and so on. However, somehow or other, I don't know how it works out, but the idea is basically that the idea is basically that before one comes to the point of temptation, or when one is in the point of temptation, the question is should one sin or not, one has to take the attitude that it's a matter of free will. I can choose, I can decide whether I should sin or not. But afterwards, after one has sinned and one has repented, one is permitted or perhaps even encouraged to look back on the whole thing and see the divine hand at work throughout the whole process, and see it as deterministic, and see the hand of God in the whole business from beginning to end. See the hand of God in the sin as well as in the repentance, because the sin was a path to the repentance, the Aveda was a path to the tshuva, which winds up bringing the person to a higher madrega, and so on. So that's a theme which is sounded again and again in the Ishbitzer school, or Mordechai Fleiner, or Tzaddik, his great Talmud, and so on. Going so far as to advocate a kind of divine determinism concerning sin, denial of free will, at least after the fact, to see the hand of God in the whole process. So the fact is that there's a Medrash Tanchuma, I believe it's in the Parshas Vayeshev, where it says that there's a pasuk that says Noira Alila al Bnei Odom. Alila means an accusation or a conspiracy, or both. Noira Alila al Bnei Odom, that is an accusation or a conspiracy, an accusation or conspiracy which people can make this accusation against God, that there is a kind of conspiracy. Because the Medrash says that Adam HaRishon said to God, he complained to God that you're all angry at me because I brought death into the world, because I sinned and I ate from the tree. Because of that, the punishment was that if I eat from the tree, then death will come into the world. So I ate from the tree, and now death came into the world, and it's my fault. It's all my fault. And this is the accusation that God lays against me, that God lays against Adam, Adam HaRishon. And Adam HaRishon complains to God. He said, I mean, what's going on here? He said, you know, we know that Chazal say, we know that the Torah was there 2,000 years before the world. Like Chazal say, the Torah preceded the world. The Torah is the basic blueprint of reality. And the Torah, there's all kinds of discussion of death. It says, if people are Machal Shabbos, they should be put to death. So it's obvious from the Torah, which is presented as preceding the world and there before the world, that death was part of the master plan, that God intended for death to come into the world. So how could God come to me, Adam HaRishon, and say, why did you mess up and bring death into the world? People could have had eternal life. It seems obvious that that was part of the plan, and it was always supposed to be this way. It was always supposed to be this way. And it says that the Medrash said that Adam HaRishon complained to God, and he said to God, it's a muscle, it's like a woman who comes home, and not a woman, a woman is at home, and her husband comes home. Her husband comes home, and he says, give me water. He says, give me water. So she gives him lukewarm water. He drinks the water. He says, you bring me lukewarm water, I wanted cold water. And he reaches into his cloak, and he pulls out a get, and he gives it to her. Oh, you give me lukewarm water, I wanted cold water. You give me lukewarm water, so he reaches into his cloak, and he pulls out a get, and he gives it to her. So she complains to him. She says, does this make any sense? You came home with the get already in your cloak. You were ready by the surf, you came home with the get. If I would have given you cold water, you would have said you wanted lukewarm water. You were ready by the roof. I mean, you came home with the get. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's an alila. The whole thing is a setup, right? The whole thing is a setup. So basically, the Medrash presents Adam HaRishon as complaining in that way to God. That it's a setup. From the fact that the Torah precedes the world, and in the Torah there are references to death. In the Torah, the references to death, I know that death was part of the master plan all along. So you're complaining to me, you're accusing me of bringing death into the world. It's not real. It's not my fault. It's not because I did this, because I did that, because I brought forth lukewarm water instead of cold water. It was always supposed to be this way. You always had to get prepared. Oh God. So, what's going on? And the Medrash presents other Rishon as voicing that accusation, and the Medrash does not offer any defense of God. and the Medrash repeats the same theme again, where it says that that Klal Yisrael complains against God, that we suffer all these years because of Mechirus Yosef, because the Shvatim, the tribes, Reuven, Shimon, and so on, they all got together and they threw Yosef into the pit and they sold him to the Arabs and he had to go down to Mitzrayim, and we talk about it on Yom Kippur because all the years we're always suffering, and we're all descended from these people, and they sold out their brother because they were jealous, because their father favored them, and they sold out their brother, and we're the descendants of these people. And it's Svarim, it says, until the Golus is over, we'll never stop suffering because of Mechirus Yosef. Right? That's what it says. Right? So they sold the brother, they sold Joseph down to Egypt land. So the Medrash says the same thing. That Klal Yisrael complains to God, look, you promised our father Abraham, Avram, you told him there was the bris bein habesarim, the covenant, and you told him, they're going to go down, and your seed shall be a stranger in a land which is not theirs, and they will be enslaved, and they will be tormented for 400 years, and then they'll go out, and they'll be redeemed, and so on. So basically, the point is that God already promised Abraham, He already promised Avram Avinu that the Israelites, his descendants, would be brought down to Egypt one way or another. So God was getting Jacob down to Egypt. He had to get this process going, and that's how it happened, right?